Hey, this is Notser, and we're talking the Hindenburg and Roon nerfs. I've got my thoughts on this. The game in the background is myself in the Hindenburg. It's work in progress because we are testing the legendary module. No. So people were suggesting, why not prototype? Why not something experimental? Something like that would fit more appropriately with the game, wargaming. Please don't call it legendary. It feels very RPG-esque. Call it something that would fit the style of the game, in my opinion. But Hindenburg has a legendary module that sits in slot 5, so it competes with concealment and or the steering gear modification 2. And for the Hindenburg, it improves the rudder shift time by 30%, improves the flood recovery time by 70%, fire extinguishing by 50%, and main battery repair by 50%. So it's just to make you more tanky. And I think that's pretty cool. And this is going to have a great example of its downfall. It really is one of the things that everyone has to consider when replacing concealment at slot 5. So the nerfs will entail a reload adjustment. Hindenburg and the Roon are going from a base reload of 10 seconds to 11 seconds. And honestly, it's a pretty fair adjustment. However, I would not touch anything until the Zhao changes are introduced, because Tier 10 cruiser bracket is honestly outstanding. Wargaming, please do not mess with this particular bracket in the balance. Pretty much every ship has a legitimate use case. They are all viable. They are all enjoyable to play, even unreleased Worcester. Wargaming has really nailed the Tier 10 cruiser balance, in my opinion. They all have very unique playstyles. They all have their unique traits that are attractive, depending on the meta. And I know, Wargaming, you're probably disappointed that the Hinden gets so much play when there are so many great Tier 10s, but the unique trait is not the inertia fuse high explosive baked into the Hinden or its torpedo systems or its hydroacoustic. The trait that is probably the most coveted is its consistent reliability. It has the ability to take multiple salvos from enemy battleships and do just fine. And that's really attractive. It's a small, tanky package that players love. Its gun velocity allows for it to operate so it can take full advantage of that, whereas the Des Moines cannot. The Des Moines cannot take advantage of its 27mm bow at medium to long range. It has to try and find something to arc its shells over. Otherwise, the velocity makes it really difficult to engage targets other than battleships that are maneuvering at long range, right? But it's a great unique trait. I love that it has a really fast rearm, has radar. Its AA protection is fantastic. Henry's great. I love the large gun caliber. The module is very intriguing. I think the only reason the Henry doesn't see a lot of play is because the French cruiser line doesn't provide that much when you compare it to the utility that the others are bringing. All right, speed boost is cool to get on the flank, but usually players are spread out so far it's really hard to get on the flank in a game. But it's a really great platform to do that if and when it's available to the player. The Minotaur is a great little light cruiser that can only fire AP. It's insanely intimidating to run up against. It has the ability to equip smoke, has the ability to equip radar. Its torpedo systems are really cool. Its healing is really fascinating. Moskva, super long range gunnery, high gun velocity, can use radar every once in a while. It's a really cool plat package. Everything is really fun. Des Moines. Zhao. So don't make this change, Wargaming, if you feel like you need to drop the player's interest in the ship, the popularity of the ship. Only make this change if you feel like the Hinden is absolutely outperforming the other ships. Without a shadow of a doubt, you can verify that the stats are 100% accurate. That it is just 5, 10, 15, 20, 30% better than every single cruiser. And I don't know that it is. I think it's just very good for the current meta. And that's fine. Other ships are good for other metas, you know? I hope that the Zhao change is the one that comes through, and this is just, oh, we really don't need to make this change. It feels fine. Because I do think it feels fine. I think all the cruisers are really fun, and I really enjoy it. I would just really hate for the bracket to be adjusted. Like, one wrong move and the Hinden drops dramatically. Because it doesn't have radar. It doesn't have the super heal of the Minotaur. It's got to be incredibly careful. It doesn't have compelling torpedo systems for assault. It's purely defensive in nature. It's just good at, it's just really good. It's a solid ship. So if the Zhao with these torpedoes coupled with the module that they introduce has become, you know, this like god tier cruiser that can do everything that the Hinden can do, but it can just do it better, you know. Higher damage torpedoes, more torpedo strikes per game, higher fire chance, set targets on fire, the ability to drop off detection better, to maneuver better, you know. Be very careful. These two ships operate in a very, very similar design path, and I just want to see the Zhao change first before anything else happens. Because I really like the Zhao change. I think the Zhao change is just what it needs. Some players disagree. It doesn't need it. It doesn't play like that at all. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the point. The point is that if Wargaming can, they should align the ship lines perfectly, as well as they can. The German battleships, they all play very similar to one another. The German cruisers, the German destroyers, the Pan-Asian destroyers, they all play very similar to one another. And that's great. The American light cruisers, you know the design. You want to continue progressing through it, and you want to maintain that. Ships like the Izuma, they're really awkward because they take you out of the design that you're accustomed to for so many ships. Even something like Queen Elizabeth. This is a very different ship than all the other British battleships that you play in the main line. They just bring you out of it. I can't describe it any other way. Players will try and play these ships like all the other ships in the line, and they will fail. And people will question, oh, have you ever played the game? Did you just free XP here? No, the ship's totally different. Or it's awkward, and I'm just not used to that playstyle. This is the only line I have. So, when they can, please maintain consistency. And I think that's the best thing that World of Warships has going for it. Line consistency, continue it, please. And I hope that sticks true. So, you can see the Hinden. This game was, yeah, it was really awkward. At times, we were at a deficit. We were in the lead. I'm just trying to look for any and all damage I can do from a safe position, as the Hinden should do, right? You've got the gun velocity to operate anywhere. You've got the tank ability to operate pretty much anywhere. And I was hoping to maybe get a torpedo strike on the Montana if he decided to go down towards my teammates. I wanted to take out the enemy DD, of course. It's a huge threat to my team. But I don't have the concealment to get around hiding from the enemy. Ooh, that was a good shot. But I don't have the concealment to get around the map undetected. And that's a little frustrating. You know, some of these long-range cruiser support, they can't do anything other than long-range support. They can't go hunting a DD. They don't have radar. If there's ever a scenario where they are operating against someone who has better concealment by a wide margin, they are just helpless. They have to win the battle before it gets to this point, or have someone who can detect the target and engage them. So, this module is really interesting and fun, but I don't know how much I actually got out of it. If I'm looking back on the game and thinking about it, as I was talking about the changes to the Zhao and the Hinden and the Roon, I can't say that I needed my main battery repaired really quickly. I obviously am not going to take a flood, and even if I do take a flood, if it's on for 5 seconds, that's 5 seconds too long. Floods do way too much damage. I kind of feel like the game should maybe look to make floods do a little bit less damage, but it makes the ship perform worse, more so. Like, a flood feels like you're dead immediately. Like, it is incredibly punishing, to the point where any and all flood-related buffs or debuffs, they don't do anything. You know, I'm not sitting over here going, man, I'm going to let the flood stay for 25 seconds because that's what it is on the module. No, I'm going to put it out right now because I'm going to be dead otherwise. So, you know, overall, I think the module is interesting. It's intriguing to make it tanky. I don't know how tanky it would be. I kind of feel like if they really wanted to make a ship tanky, they could make their damage control cooldown way shorter, like way shorter. And I think that would be kind of cool to have the ability to have damage control up every 15 or 20 seconds. Just, you know, basically immune to dots. Dots are not going to stick on the ship. That could be a better approach than this whole flood and armor repair and whatever. It kind of feels like, yeah, okay, I'm never going to let the flood stay that long anyway. I'm never going to let my gunnery stay inoperable if I need it right then and there. The fire, what would it burn for? What was it? It was like 50% fire, 70%? So 50%, it should burn for like 15 seconds. You know, it's nice. I would probably allow the fire to burn, but floods just do too much damage. They do way too much damage. And here's the moment. Here's the moment that I teased early on. This is where this module fails me. Because I have no hope, absolutely no hope of approaching the DD. So I have to try and mitigate the enemy damage. And I tried to find a window where I could get close and use my torpedoes. I couldn't. I should have used hydroacoustic to protect myself, but that was a loss right there. I didn't have the way to operate and deal with the target, and that's okay. There's other cruisers at tier 10 that do that better. Let me know what you think of the Hinden and the Roon nerfs. I don't want it, but I can understand it a little bit. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.